All right, what's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong. Today is the 28th of May, 2025. It's a Wednesday. I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, episode 125. Welcome. Okay, if you're new, welcome back. If you have listened to any of our previous In the Image Clothing Company podcast episodes. And the title of this episode is actually I Already Told You. And I'll get into a lot of reasons as to why it's titled that. And one of the big ones actually is guitar. So what I do on In the Image Clothing Company podcast intros, okay, is I play a little bit of guitar usually. Then I talk about each of the four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. I talk about where clothing sits. And then we get into the discussions. And what I'm going to do here is maybe take even quite a few minutes out at the beginning here and just play around. No really structure or even knowing of mine on what I will play necessarily, but even if it's 5 minutes plus, I'll just kind of sit here and pick around on little Red the guitar here. Okay, he's a Johnson JG610R 3/4 size with nylon strings because I'm Evan Strong and I do crazy things with nylon strings. But I'm just gonna play because what I'm saying about I already got told about guitars, and I'll get into that part of the discussion throughout it, okay? But yeah, I'll just play around and be kind of just a little jam session for however many minutes, even if it's, a decent length of time, even up to 10 minutes, whatever, even more, whatever it ends up being. I'll just sit here and just kind of pick around, pluck around, play around, and just have a good time, okay? And then we will get into a good discussion too, as well, right? So, yeah. I do think Red's a little bit out of tune. I'm just gonna keep playing through some things, some stuff that I am comfortable with, some stuff that I'm practiced in, if you will. And I'll explain why. I need to take myself out of it a little bit. Not play as if I'm trying to make an intro for In the Image Clothing Company podcast, but just kind of play as if I'm just playing. Okay? So what does that for me is minor chords. Yeah, I gotta loosen up, bro, for the sake of not playing for an intro, but just playing. I used to play this thing. There's like a lot of like pull-offs right there. Let's see. It was like, I don't know. It feels very jazzy to me. used to play a lot more than I do as far as the variety of what I played. I used to kind of like really just I used to really yeah. When I used to do a lot of stuff just open chords, I think that's the thing. Before I ever got a capo, I would just I mean, that's not an open chord, those are bar chords, but because I used to just play everything open chord, and I used to just sit in a D chord like this for just hours. Because on the 3rd fret, I would play that. There's this song I wrote called "Dusty Doorstep," and it would go. Let me feel it out first. Shoot, because I don't know. It would go. The doorstep's getting a little bit dusty. Everyone's running, but we don't know what speed is best. Shoot. I feel like he's like pretty out of tune, which is funny for this, but shoot, I want to know how that goes actually. And I used to just do freestyles like this. But it was like, the doorstep's getting a little bit dusty. Everyone's running, but shoot. The doorstep's getting a little bit dusty. Everyone's running, but we don't know what speed is best. So again, that's just not at all how the tempo was for it, but it makes me upset, bro. It does. It makes me really upset. And this is actually what this episode is about. So I'll get into it. But then, you know, I actually started playing guitar by playing ukulele, and I would play up here. And by up here, I just mean I would play ukulele, which is like a guitar keyboard on the 5th fret. So I would play things like. I started to play minor stuff on the ukulele too. The big thing is my nails, bro. The difference in length of them is unreal, actually, right now. My middle finger's like really way too short. It makes a lot of things actually very difficult when it comes to trying to play guitar. It just really does. So, yeah. Darn, man. Yeah, it's very annoying, actually. Trying to play guitar, and I'll explain a lot of what I actually mean by that. But yeah. Yeah. Because there was a lot of stuff I used to play that was like so like intricate, actually. Because I used to play. Yeah. Shoot. See, what that is my middle finger not being able to actually be supported because the nail's too short. If you're watching in video plus audio of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, then you can just see, right? My other nails have support for the finger pad, but the middle finger here, it broke playing Ultimate Frisbee like 2.5 weeks ago. Well, I think it was 3 full weeks ago, actually, tomorrow, which is crazy that it's still only grown back as much as it is. But anyway, I think the point is, that a lot of what I'm saying during this and a lot of the struggle, in a sense and in a way that I'm having, that you're able to witness, is what I'll have this discussion be about, a lot of it at least, and that's what I mean by the episode title. I already told you. So yeah, let me play something that's actually like, yeah. I love my song I wrote titled This Road. It's awesome. I'll play just, at least some of it. I'm trying to find my way on this road, feeling like I run out of time. I'm trying to find my way on this road, but slowing down never crossed my mind. Yeah, I'll play that much of that. Gosh, man, I could just play guitar this whole time. This is the whole thing about me and guitar is it's this weird thing, because there is an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled The Greatest Battle. And that's what I talked about, is music, specifically me playing guitar, has been the greatest battle of my entire life, truly. Undoubtedly, no comparison, anything else ever in my existence. And I've been through some pretty big things. No, playing guitar, it's been the greatest battle of my life. And it just has. Man, I love that intro, though, for This Road. It goes like this. Dreaming of castles in the sky, falling from then it gets into the song. But see, I wrote that like 2.5 years ago, brother. No joke. It was about 2.5 years ago. And what I mean by that is what I meant by the episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, the one I just referenced. It's the greatest battle of my life, playing guitar. And kind of what I'm saying here is, it's weird, I think, for other people to hear me play, and sometimes I'll play stuff that's like, whoa, wow, yeah, actually you're really good. And then other times I'm just struggling so much to play. And I'll unpack a lot of that, but then we'll get into a lot of other things as well in this episode. But I just wanted to make sure that I played, a decent amount there to show kind of both ends, of sometimes I'm struggling so much to play a guitar, and there's a lot of reasons as to why. And then, other times I can shred, like, seriously. So, yeah. Much more than just guitar will get discussed in this, but here we are, okay? In the Image Clothing Company podcast, episode 125, as I said, the title is I Already Told You. And what we do here on In the Image Clothing Company podcast, 1/4 of In the Image Clothing Company as a whole, is have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. I talk about how I'm not religious, and I'm not. I say how I don't believe anything, and I don't, okay? I don't believe in anything either. But I know God, because God is just the one who created us and this life and our bodies and everything that we have the opportunity to even think about or understand or experience or even think up out of our own minds in this life that we have. So we just discuss things as they are, and it's a great place, man, for myself, if I'm just speaking out of what it is, and it's very beneficial to a lot of people, because I do talk about a lot of things that give people insights, and I speak out of personal experience, and I really have experienced a lot in my life, even though I'm only 25 years old. There's people with a lot of more lifetime than I have currently behind them, if you will, right? But I have a lot to share and say, because I really have had a very full life. Even at a young age, I had already had a very, very full and diverse and kind of crazy life. So that's what we do here, okay, on this 4th of our company. And yeah, really, In the Image Clothing Company and Evan Strong are one. That's one of our titles for In the Image Clothing Company podcast. So, a lot of it really is me just sharing kind of my personal experiences and my life, because what we do is actually get given things by God to experience and go through that sometimes are extremely hard, sometimes are an extreme privilege, like a positive type of thing, if we were to say it. And, on all ends, to be able to show and share people, share to people and with people on, who God really is because of what he's done in our lives. And so then we can have like tangible, actual, things to be able to relate to, rather than just reading stories of people in scripture that is true and did happen, but it's generations and decades or centuries before our time, and the world looked different, and there's trials and struggles. Even though they were the same as ours, they looked different because they didn't have things that we do now, and we don't really do things that they did back then, and right. So yeah, just the truth of all things, there really is only one truth, and I have no place to ever try to decide what it is, and I just discuss things that are apart from all of us, but apply to all of us as well. So that this is where we are, In the Image Clothing Company podcast. And I think I could very well say, without anybody saying anything opposing it, I'm pretty seasoned at this point. Like, I'm a seasoned podcaster, if you will, meaning we have 125 episodes behind us as of this one. There's 124 actually, because this is the 125th. But in addition to that, I spent so much of my life filming things and making so many videos since I was about 13. Maybe even 12 give or take around that year of my life, I started to make videos, and I've just made just an immense amount of videos. And so this is beautiful for me, is what I'm saying. It's a way where I can do something I'm very good at, which is that, making videos, but also speaking and teaching, and, and I can do it in a way that's just how I would do it authentically, and even something like this, like I'm saying, things that just didn't happen in the past. You didn't have video until you did, right? I mean, it's relatively new to even be able to film something as a human being. And so I call it the gift of video, man. And I do express it actually quite a bit, but my gratitude for just being able to do this, because really we do so much through video under all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company, and we'll continue to do that. As you can tell by me stuttering and tripping up over this, I don't stutter. If this is one of your first times hearing me speak at all, I guess is how we'll word that. You might not know, but I really don't stutter. Not that there's a problem with stuttering, but what I'm saying by that is that's when I'm so convicted by something. Meaning when God is saying, like, yes, this is something you need to focus on. I'm giving you this, I'm telling you this, I'm having you speak on this or do this because it is extremely important, and you just might not see all of why quite yet. So those are the moments really when I stutter, is when something is so big. And yeah, just how grateful I am for video. Growing up, people actually kind of like in a way saved my life truly through video. And I've mentioned some of the names, but Roman Atwood, Ryan Higa, some of these people that I watched their videos through, the internet, which again, something that just didn't even exist even decades back from today's date, which is I said it at the beginning and I wasn't quite sure of what it was. I think it is the 28th of May, 2025. It's a day or two on either end if it's not that. But it's just such a gift, man. I love video so much. And so, yeah, this isn't really, well, I guess kind of, and even that, again, I wasn't expecting, saying any of this in this, but it really does actually go along with the title. Growing up, I knew how comfortable I was with making videos because I would do it so often, and I was just so drawn to it, and now that's all that, In the Image Clothing Company is, as of today's date, is just videos. That's it. There's nothing else. There's no clothing yet. There's no poodle puppies yet. There's no website yet. As of today's date, all that In the Image Clothing Company is just an accumulation of videos. And it's just a huge gift. And so I think a big thing with that, we haven't even said the intro yet, and I'll get into it, but like I was saying, the title, I already told you, it's things like this, where what I mean by the title, one of the main things, is, and well, yeah, I mean, that's it, actually, is God has already told us things sometimes, and then we question and we wonder, and we generally don't doubt God. What we doubt, if we do, is if we heard him correct. And, growing up, just, even if I never had actually gotten told, either way, whether that is or isn't the case, that I would be, like, making videos, to make a living, for example, like In the Image Clothing Company is. That's a big part of, what we always will be, even with, clothing sales and dog product sales and poodles themselves, so a lot of it is just video, and really we could have this entire company just as it is, meaning never adding the things that we will, but just having videos. Growing up, all the practice that I had, by speaking to a camera so often, just, we call them selfie cameras around this time, and which is actually all that I have on this device to film any content of In the Image Clothing Company as of today's date. The actual higher quality rear cameras on this device just haven't worked, and since I've been making In the Image Clothing Company content, and I just spend so much time holding my own little device up to my face like this, growing up, and just filming, talking to the camera, or splicing a lot of videos. I used to do so much parkour flips, and I'd make videos of things and put it together with music, and all this experience that I had growing up making videos, well, music as well, because I actually used to, write and produce rap songs through a video. editing application that was free on my little device. That's how I, actually like fully produced with other people's beats at those times, but my own rap songs, and there's like 17 of them, give or take, real full length songs. And what I'm saying with this is, it's kind of like the title, God, he told me, I already told you, meaning, growing up, there was things like that, where I stopped doing things for a while, and kind of like I felt an obligation to, but I was already told by God that I needed to do them. And the reason why they were working, the reason why I was so good at them and they came so naturally to me, is because that's what he placed me here to do. And in a lot of these cases, it was just a lot of practice that I had, and I didn't realize at the time that I was practicing for, anything down the road. And now here I am, right, in 2025, like a decade to a decade and a half past a lot of these videos that I used to just make. I'm 125 episodes into a podcast, and I was talking about having a podcast a couple years ago, and I just never thought it could actually happen. And now, not only just is it something that can happen, because, it always could have, but it's something that is just comfortable for me, I'm not awkward or uncomfortable talking to a camera in the slightest, because it's second nature to me, if you will, because of all the experience that I had with it growing up. And even though I didn't really know what I was doing, man, that hits me, because I didn't at all. And what I mean is, I didn't really realize what was happening. I was practicing unintentionally on my part. It's not like I was like, not like I'm trying to say, look how much practice I've done, give me credit. No. I just didn't realize, but now all the practice that I did have is, helping me do what I'm doing now. And so that was another thing, is a lot of those videos, I just didn't even know what I was doing. Like, why am I filming these, because I think, oh my goodness, 98% of them have been deleted at least, right? I don't know exact percentages, but pretty much everything that I made, I deleted. And I'm content with that. It's kind of like those, art exercises. You paint something beautiful on like a piece of canvas, and then you burn the canvas after, or you build a beautiful sculpture, and then you like hit it with a baseball bat, and shatter it after it's been built. It's just like you make something so awesome, but then destroy it, because it's an exercise, because like I say, the episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled "All That We Have Is Our Human Bodies," right? And so everything in our lives, some of it can be totally just fully experienced, and we can be fully immersed in it and so grateful for it, but it all leaves. And so it's good to be able to have both ends, where you cherish it and it's great, but you're also entirely content with it, not being there at one point. I've talked about like my first dog, Nita, who I don't even have yet, but my first standard poodle. And, we'll talk about it when I get to the intro, in the Image Clothing Company Poodles, we'll talk about it. But I've talked about, I'm so excited to have her, and yeah, she'll probably live somewhere around 15 years, but one day she'll die as well. And that's okay. And in a sense, that's a big thing, is, yeah, well, just being trained for things without knowing that that's what's happening. So I'll get into the intro, and then we'll further this discussion, okay? But our main side of In the Image Clothing Company is another one of our fourths, where it all started and still and always our main side. Keyword allowing the human body to work is what we do. We talk about clothing, and yes, it's in our name, our 5-word name as a whole, In the Image Clothing Company, but we're not about fashion, and really the reason why we talk about clothing at all is just to get to the human body, because it's placed on us, and we're placed on Earth. And Earth has gravity that pulls us straight down from the center line that is there, despite some people thinking it's a belief. There's a sternum, and I've had 2 full open heart surgeries, and so, right, I mean, my sternum's been entirely opened up and then titanium wired back together twice. And then the spine, directly behind that, the trachea, our nose, and then our jaw is in the center, but it also naturally stabilizes our entire body. And so we have 2 feet arches opposing the center, gripping inward, keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity, okay? So clothing has to just stay centered, fit correct, where I'll discuss in a minute, and then ideally be made from 100% natural materials, because just materials placed onto our skin themselves can be just as damaging as physical weight or size imbalances in clothing, because we have pores in our skin and things soak into our skin, as well as, perspiration coming out of our skin, sweat, right? So yeah, and that's how we do, allow, keyword, our bodies to work. Our slogan, right? Allowing the body to work, because it's the only thing placed on us. And so, as I say, and it's just the truth, because we're just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, as I say, and the human body is just about its neutrals, right? A neutral position in every joint, like the wrist here that you can see if you're watching in visual plus audio. And from there, the body just works if it's residing in its only neutrals, because it has to. Neutral and natural are synonyms within the human body, and the body can only be natural, because anything that's unnatural just doesn't mesh with it. We eat anything that's unnatural, and it just goes through our bodies and comes back out without benefiting us. So, yeah, we talk about things like that, right? Eating, sleeping, standing, walking, sitting, hydration, and the goal for all 4 sides of In the Image Clothing Company is, and always has been, and always will be, natural, because God is, as in literally God is, as in his name is the great I am. And anything human beings create is not God, and actually damaging and artificial. And there's no dispute. That's why I love what we talk about. I don't have opinions, other than the times that I, put my opinions in things, right? I'm not perfect. Never will be in this life. So, yeah, there you go, okay? That's what we do on the main side. We also have In the Image Clothing Company Music as another 4th of us, and I did a lot of discussion there at the beginning about guitars, okay? Yeah, so I show how to size and set up guitars to keep the body in its only neutrals, and to keep the rounding in our human hands that have always been there, and to keep the body's fingers working in line the only way they ever could, If you don't know, check us out. That's why we're here, truly, is to speak truth. Okay, there's only truth. Yeah, that's it. It's God himself. The way, the truth, and the life. Jesus Christ. Okay? So, there you go. Also, music that I make is on In the Image Clothing Company Music. There's another 4th of us, and it's huge. It's huge, and it fills my soul. In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, okay? We specialize in standard size purebred poodles, and we will breed them under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles properly through American Kennel Club. They will be registered, and we do a lot of advocating for those reasons, right? Proper breeding and accountability as dog owners, debunking myths of dogs and why they act the way they do, and a lot of things, just not being able to listen to commands with noise jingling around their neck on their collar, for example. But yeah, letting dogs stay natural is our slogan for that 4th of the company, In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, right? Dehydrated kibble is just food that has had water extracted from it. It's just unnatural for any life form for that to be the case. It happens to human beings as well. Yeah, it's not natural. I mean, there's water content in food naturally, meat or plants. I mean, I'm vegetarian. I used to eat a lot of meat, but no matter what you are eating, the water is in food naturally. So, yeah, unnatural materials in dog toys, accessories, that they shouldn't be eating. It shouldn't be on them, just like us human beings. collars, leashes, and harnesses. Like human being clothing, the dog has a center line, a sternum, a spine, a trachea, a nose, and a jaw. The same things that I say that human beings have to stay within the center of, dogs also have on the same earth, with gravity affecting them the same. So, in the Image Clothing Company dog products, as well as in the Image Clothing Company clothing, will always be on InTheImageClothingCompany.com, okay? To stay centered on the dogs, be made from natural materials, 100% natural where we can, right? And yeah, minimal light, just, yeah. As I say, it humbles me thinking about these dogs. So, poodle parade events under In The Image Clothing Company poodles. Standard, miniature, toy, any size of purebred poodle and or poodle mix. The only breeds allowed, because it's in the name, right? Poodle parades. But we get together here in the state of Utah, the United States of America, go on hikes, walks, hang out at parks, talk about letting dogs stay natural, and just hanging out as well, okay? So, that's our 4 sides, a little bit of each of them. And clothing needs to sit in the same location. For a man or a woman, somebody who's tall or short, somebody who's skinny or fat, any age or any part of the earth, any time period to ever be, we're all the same. And our bodies only have one way that they could ever work, okay? Our pants need to be entirely above our hips, so there's no restriction to the functionality of the hips. Slightly higher in the front than the rear for the waistband angle of our pants, because our core muscles are only there to be constantly activated, and they just always would unless altered. So that's how we let them with pants on. Our tops that we wear, the seams that are on top of our shoulders have to sit evenly behind. I mean, as you can see, right? I'm sitting in a very, forward position in the sense of like I'm leaning into the camera, but yes, evenly behind the peak of our shoulders is where the seams sit on the top of our shoulders, okay? Because our shoulders only ever work behind our head. That's just where they work mechanically. Nobody could ever have a say over it, literally ever, unless you do have some deformity or whatever. Then cool, your body's slightly different, and you know that, and it's your own situation. And then the edge seams of our shoulders need to sit right at the very edges of our shoulders, okay? It's just where the functionality of the joint is. And then we have 2 things we call prerequisites under In The Image Clothing Company, because they have to be done if there's ropes in our shoes. In The Image Clothing Company shoelace technique is the only way you can weave a rope, which is just what we call a shoelace, across the top of the human foot without altering all the mechanics in there. And then we tie shoes, right? Also, as people, as human beings wearing them. And so we have to tie our shoes evenly on both feet because there's 2 sides to the body. And I was 24 years old when that started to happen in my life, and it changed my life. One of the main things that, even allowed me to be able to know what I now do and found in the Image Clothing Company. So yeah, over toward the center line of the human being, over toward the inside on both feet, okay? With our knots of the shoe tying. It seems so obvious, right? And to me is what I mean. And once you do it, once you see what's happening, and that's why there's that phrase that I say, it's as obvious as it gets once you see it, okay? Within the Image Clothing Company stuff. It just is what it is. And then secondly, we remove all tags from clothing. Anywhere a tag is in clothing, it's either causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or just not allowing musculature to activate. And then the body tries to compensate, but it's all one. And anywhere any of it goes, the rest comes, and so it can't compensate. Everything has a role to play. Okay, there we go. There's our intro. I did some of the discussion beforehand after playing guitar, and then we'll do more discussion after. And sometimes that happens, right? Because really what our intros are is what we are. I've worded it like that because that's the case. What we are as In The Image Clothing Company is our intros, right? Is what I say. Where clothing sits and our 2 prerequisites. I mean, that's physically, like our main side, for example, where we address the anatomy of the human body. That's how. We talk about, fine little minute modifications in clothing, like the dreaded collar seam modification under In The Image Clothing Company, things like that. Of course, we meaning if you know us, we do a lot more than just give you a few minutes of where your clothing sits and you're good. But that's really what we are, is doing what we need to get clothing to sit in those locations, right? truly, physically, that's what we are. But then a lot more, as you heard there. So anyway, yeah, furthering the discussion though, I just, with guitar, it's one of those things. After throwing away so many guitars and breaking so many guitars, like I was some rock star on a stage, right? Except it was on my front lawn instead, right? So, yeah, you know, each time it was still that whole, I knew that God had already told me, that I'm supposed to play. And there's a lot of things in life, man, that we've already been told, and I say often, I don't like to repeat myself. I don't like to waste my breath. And I don't mean to be mean, but I don't like to repeat myself or waste my breath. And, if I don't, if I'm looking at an almighty perfect God, you know, it's a higher level of not wanting to waste his breath. Because I'm sinful, and I'll say something and maybe I just didn't quite say it the best way I could have the first time. And so maybe, and yes, in times, repeating what I've said is beneficial. But God doesn't need to repeat himself because he doesn't make mistakes. And so he says everything perfect the first time. And his word is perfect, meaning literally his written word, right? The word of God. Scripture, right? The Book of Mormon, the Holy Bible, true doctrine, either directly out of the mouth of Jesus Christ in the 33 years he was here, or God himself, which is Jesus Christ, right? Through revelation that he gives us, or however it comes, right? From God. If he's told us something, he's told us, and he doesn't need to tell us again on his end. But if we don't listen, sometimes what happens is some time just needs to go by for us to kind of be like, oh shoot, yeah, and I'll pray about that. That'll be my prayer a lot of the time is, Father, is there something I just haven't quite finished? Because I get that feeling like I know you said something and I did it mostly, but did I not fully do something? And it's like, did I just not hear what you had already told me, or did I just not act on it fully? Because that's what it is a lot of the time is God has already given us our answer that we're searching for, or praying for, or looking for. And sometimes we just kind of brush it off, or we're expecting something else, or we just don't fully receive what he said. And that's what I mean by that. Like, did I just not fully finish? Sometimes like, I've done what God's asked, but I just didn't do it quite to the degree of what he wanted it to be. And so, I kind of like am feeling, shoot, man, I feel like there's just something I need to do. And I'm praying like, Father, what is it? What is it? What is it? And he, there's this sense of like, whether he says it or not, or if he's kind of just like waiting for me to understand, he's like, I already told you, And a lot of times too, we don't want the answers that we're given. And so we might be seeking for another answer, and we're not going to get anywhere until we do what God already, keyword, clearly told us. Because he does. He tells us things very clear when he does. And sometimes we just either don't want to hear it, and that's a big one. Sometimes we just don't want to hear it. And if we're praying and praying and praying, like, Father, no, I need a different answer. I need something else. I can't do that. Or I tried it and it didn't seem to work. And he's like, no, I already told you. And he just kind of, puts his foot, he's God. He kind of just puts his foot down. And he's like, nah, you're either going to do this or you're going to get nowhere. Because you know what you need to do. And I already told you, And that's kind of where that time comes in with like the whole like the scary wrath of God, In moments, yeah, he's the creator of all things. He's almighty and omnipotent and perfect. He could do anything ever that he wanted other than go back on his own word. Yeah, there definitely is that wrath of God that can come out. And that's a time when it definitely would. When he's like, no, nope. I already told you, stop being just a little kid and trying to run away from it. I told you what to do. Keep asking me all you want, but I gave you your answer. You know, and when we think about that, like an earthly father, like one of our dads saying that type of thing to us, it's like, that's mean. But that's the difference, right? Is what I said. God is perfect. He only needs to say things once. And sometimes we're just, a little bit defiant of his answer. I'm going to say this. And the reason why I kind of approach it like that is because regardless of how I say this, regardless of who understands why this is being said, and regardless of who hears this, and regardless of if I wanted to say this or not, I'm prompted to, and regardless of what my intent is behind this, it's just the case, and I'm not trying to use this as any reason other than what I just said. God already told me, and I don't even know how this is going to really come out, because this is not me saying this, but I was sitting in Institute tonight, our weekly church class in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as I talk about, but those of you who don't know, it's just an hour-long class in the evenings during the week, right? It's kind of just like a Sunday school class. And tonight I got really convicted of needing to, make this podcast episode, but say this in it as well. Because I'm not saying this for any other human being's sake. That's the whole thing, is this isn't me trying to say this or trying to justify or trying to make an excuse or trying to, whatever it could be. Trying to sound like I'm so high and mighty, like I'm some prophet who got told this high thing to do, And you can tell how much, if you can, this is me, like, aware of how this might sound to people. And that part doesn't matter, but what does matter, as far as me explaining all that before I say it, is to be very clear that I'm not even so comfortable with it myself. And this is one of those things, where God already told me, and I've been trying to oppose it. Yeah, I'll give a little, I'm gonna just, see, it's like I don't even want to say it. But I'll say this, okay? I've been thinking about this, actually. This is not separate. This is just this part of this, and it's kind of like shocking. I don't just like want to say something so bad about somebody because I had a bad experience with them or because they just treated me terrible. But, I talk about my experience with my dad growing up, and it wasn't good, okay? Neither is my sister's experience with my dad, or my mother's experience with my dad, or, his side of the family, his experience with him. And then, that's what I mean. I'm not trying to just, like, bash somebody, but, we've definitely had a lot of stuff that we've, had to deal with, with that. Yeah, it just is what it is. And what I'm saying is, I'm not, it's not, I have some good things to say about my dad, because I was thinking about this, mowing the lawn yesterday, as far as I'm aware, unless it was today. I was also doing yard work today, and that's what I mean, is one thing my dad really did do for me, and it's kind of one of those, I don't really know what this phrase comes from, but the whole catch-22, I know where it's used, where it's like, it's kind of a good thing on both ends. It's kind of like a bad thing on both ends. It's just kind of like, yeah, okay, One thing my dad did teach me, and as terrible of an experience it has been with growing up with my dad, without trying to like say anything bad about somebody, it's just it was terrible. I can say this in a way. My dad definitely taught me how to be a good worker. Big time. But what came with that is, in his eyes and the way, he operates, is I wasn't worth anything unless I worked, right? And that's something that's very common for people in life, because that's just how the world placed onto God's earth, right, is structured, is, yeah, just like that. So a lot of people experience that, attaching their worth to their work, and it comes from things like this, like their dad or like their mom or their guardian growing up, or whatever. And so that's why I use that phrase, the catch-22. It's what it is on both ends. And, our worth doesn't change to God, no matter what. He loves us. Perfect. And my dad, the funny thing about it is, even though that's, where he would kind of like say my worth would rely on and, lie in is my work ethic. No matter how hard I worked, he still didn't really show that he cared. So it is kind of weird, because even though that's what he wanted from me, for me to be worth something, is for me to work so hard. Even when I did work so hard, and like I'm saying, he very, very well taught me how to work hard. It never, changed the way he saw me or treated me. So I would just work myself to death, and nothing would actually come from it. And this is what's weird about this, is I've been out of a a quote unquote job for 3 years as of today, right around 3 full years. And from age 17 to 22, I did nothing but work. Yeah, I missed out on all of the things that I guess could have done if I wasn't working, and so I think a lot of people now, in my life, or looking at my life, like actually now when I'm recording this, probably think that I just don't know how to work. But it's actually the opposite end. I know how to work so hard and so well that I just don't want to do it anymore. Because the reason why I would work so hard is that's what my dad wanted, is for me to just keep working harder and harder and harder and harder, and I did. And then it never changed anything. It was kind of like one of those never-ending, like, hamster wheels in a sense, I mean, yeah, it's like there's, a carrot dangling in front of you, and you're on a wheel running, and, it's like, keep working, keep working, keep working. You get closer to the carrot, or like closer to my dad's approval, or like my dad ever getting close to saying he loved me, for example, and no matter what, yeah, I could run and run and run harder, and boy, am I running more and more and more, but I'm never getting closer to what he, is saying could come, or whatever, right? It's just nothing would ever have changed. Nothing will ever or could ever change in that situation. And that's not me with any kind of like mindset of like, I just don't want to try anymore. But it's kind of like what I said, without talking bad. I mean, everybody in that man's life, okay, who knows like the real him, it just has a really hard time with him, and it's just what it is. And man, I just know how to work, dude. I know how to work so much to where, I don't even exist anymore, because I just become work, It's one of those things, I just kind of needed to be able to do to experience that. Because, well, I mean, a lot of people experience it for their whole life, and meaning, I needed to do for a time to really know what it's like, and then not do it anymore, and so this is what I'm saying. As much as people who really don't know much about what my life really looked like, in the times that it looked like that, or just people who really don't see things as it really is, they might not think, like people in my actual life at this time, right now, is what I'm saying. They might not think that I really even know how to work, and, I've given a little bit of explanation at jobs, not in a figurative way, not in my perception type of way, but, I would do the work of 2, 3, 4 employees, literally, actually, because they wouldn't schedule somebody in a position so that I could do my position and that one because they knew I could. And yeah, I'll give a little context just to go along with this while I'm saying this. It's great to kind of speak on this pretty thoroughly. I was a front end supervisor at a grocery store, and it's just I worked every night, and I just had to do the whole store. I mean, during the day there's department heads over all the different departments, and then at 6 p.m. they leave, and then from somewhere like 3-4 p.m. to midnight I was give or take, depending on what hours it was. Sometimes it was 11, sometimes it was midnight. I was over the entire store, and at other jobs, yeah, I would do two positions so that they didn't have to spend the money to pay another person to do another one of the positions, because they knew that I would come and I would work so hard that I would just wear myself out. And there wouldn't be an Evan Strong. There would be the guy who did nothing but work and sleep. And then I would eat noodles and cottage cheese and milk and like deli rolls. And that's basically all I ever ate, because the focus was just work. Food wasn't a priority, and I wasn't the priority, even though I was the thing that worked. It's just because I believed my dad. I believed that I just needed to keep working harder and harder and harder. And yeah. So what I'm saying is, when I quit my last job, I've never been fired. I've had 13 jobs, and I just quit them, moved on to something else, either higher pay or just different experience, or even lower pay, and I just was bored of the other thing. I get bored of things, I'm just, I like to learn. And you get to a point in most things in life that is, well, when I say most things, I mean, especially, pretty much what I'm saying is something that's like somebody else's project, somebody else's company, and there's only so much you can do. You can't change it. And even if you have good, things you could apply or add, a lot of times it's just not going to happen because you're not in charge of it. So I would just kind of, move on to something else. And anyway, when I quit my last job that I had, which was 3 years ago, golly, right? Are you so lazy? And so that's a big reason why I said as much as I did about, my working experience growing up is, yeah, I know how to work. I know how to work, and that's why I don't want to. Yeah. I don't like to waste my time, and that's what a lot of jobs are. It's just pointless, wasted time. I'd rather not have the money and be broke and have a life, and go just like forage in the wilderness. No joke. I mean it literal. I don't mean it out of ignorance or like naivety. I mean it literally. I've got enough life experience. When I say stuff like that, I don't mean it out of some kind of like, the world's so terrible. And no, the world is terrible, and I know it. And that's what, really what we discuss here on In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Like, no, I know it, and I understand it, is what I mean by I know it. I don't just have some view on it out of like a, hurt feeling or something. No. So, yeah, gosh darn, it's crazy. It's just so crazy, man, who I really am. I don't know. It shocks me sometimes when I just look at who I am. It's weird to even say, because yeah, it's shocking. So anyway, yeah, when I did quit, I just it's the title, right? That's what I'm getting to. Is God already told me, don't get another job. Don't just go work for somebody else again, because you will. He's like, I know you'll go and you'll slave away. And that's not what I need you to be doing. And so then, yeah, the past 3 years here, it's looked crazy, very crazy. And a lot of it's, documented in episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. The past 7-ish months, without trying to actually calculate it, we've had In the Image Clothing Company podcast. And so maybe 8 months, In the Image Clothing Company was founded on the 23rd of September, 2024. So we started the podcast a little while after that. We, meaning me, right? I mean, I'm the only one that's done anything in the Image Clothing Company wise up until today's date. But, anyway, he told me, not out of some type of thing, right? And that's why I say it the way that I do. That's why I lead up to it as with as much backstory as I did here. It's not just like, yeah, I mean, like me making something up. Like, God told me I don't need to work anymore, so I can just sit here because I'm a prophet, right? I mean, because people will just like take it like that. And so that's why I led into it the way that I did is, right, I'm not trying to be so self-proclaimed, like, I have such a higher purpose than all of you slaves working a job, so wipe my feet. And well, that's crazy too, because Jesus Christ at the Last Supper wiped the feet of his disciples, and he's the God of all. So we say some stuff sometimes, we got to realize really the truth of what's going on, and it's just weird, man. That's what I was saying just now when I'm saying, like, it's crazy to see who I really am. It's really strange for me. So I love it. I love it. That's why I love these podcast episodes on my end. I literally just like inched closer to the camera, like, ooh, let me. It's like I'm like in a conversation that like, I love this. And I'm the only one speaking right now. But that's exactly that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I love In the Image Clothing Company's podcast so much. It's such a gift for me. Yeah, so that's why I say I have a hard time with this. And that's what I was saying, earlier when I said, sometimes we don't want to accept the answer that God's given us. It's like when I say, when people do stuff that's so nice for us, we're like, man, don't do that for me. You get mad about it. Like, I don't deserve that. You better stop, but they're doing something that's just kind and is benefiting you only. That's kind of one of these situations in a sense, like that's one way of kind of describing it is God, how, I mean, I get it. And I really do know now, now that we're in this, I have seen it. I've literally seen the fruits of the labor up until this point. I've seen what's come through in the Image Clothing Company. And what I'm saying about how it shocks me to see who I really am, well, it shocks me to look back at the main side videos of In the Image Clothing Company and just hear me discuss the anatomy of the human body in the depth that I know it, and it shocks me to really actually think about what it means to have 125 episodes of a podcast as of this one, and it's just kind of happened. And, I don't want to be like, I don't, yeah, I know that I'm no, like, gosh, see, this is what I mean. This is where it is I'm trying to say things that oppose God's will because I'm trying to justify what God has said. And it's nothing to do with me, but God literally told me, that's your last job. When I quit 3 years ago. And what's weird about that is see, no words can even come out because that's what I mean. I didn't want to say this. I don't want it to sound like I'm like so much better and, because you can, the words aren't coming out literally. That's as real as it gets. And so I'm going to further what I'm saying though about during this time, I've still tried to get jobs. And you can have all the say you want on, well, the market's this way at this time. The job economy is like this, and so it's just different. Whatever you want to say. I know when it's what it is. I know when it's God stepping in and not letting things happen because he told me something and I'm trying to oppose it. And that's what this has been. I've tried to get jobs. I tried to work at a dog grooming place. I tried to work at a smoothie place. I tried to work at multiple different grocery stores. Yeah, at least 2. One was that same grocery store company that I worked at for 2 years, where I did most all the departments in the store in the time that I worked there. And I've tried to, get a lot of jobs. I just tried to do it because even though I know what God's told me, I also, have the same view that other people do. Like, well, even if you do have this big company and, yeah, it is what it is now. And I mean, there's no, there's no question that In the Image Clothing Company is huge, impact-wise, and it's just massive, dude. I mean, even if we're getting like 10 views on a video right now, or even if, not that many people know about us yet, as of me saying this right now, oh, it's huge, I mean, that's what I say, I'm making these videos in a way where they'll live on forever. So even if maybe, not right now, they don't have that many views, but like in a year, maybe they've, some of them, we look back and they've got, a number of views that's shocking, right? But videos that I've made before today's date, and so this is what I mean is, I get it, and I agree, and that's crazy, but I do, that I could have a job while I'm still at the state I am right now within the Image Clothing Company. Before, because this is just the case as of me saying this instant, before it's big enough to provide income for me and to make, a life where I can like live off of what I'm receiving from In the Image Clothing Company. That's not the case yet as of today's date. And so I get it, and I agree. Let me say it so clear with what people say and think, that, yeah, I could be working and gaining monetary value income from somebody else's company and me performing mindless, pointless tasks for them, or maybe even, beneficial tasks in times, but most jobs are very, very, very undisputedly pointless, and we know it as a society, but continue to do it, okay? It's the world. It's supposed to be like that, If you don't believe the gospel of Jesus Christ, good, but it's true. Watch the news, right? The world is crazy. Oh, it was prophesied to be, right? It's just the truth of all things. Yeah, so, but I wanted to say it on both ends, I mean, yeah, okay? Because I get it. And I totally could work, but at the same time, I've tried. And it's not like you could try more. You could apply for 5 jobs a day, Evan. You could apply for as many as you could possibly try to, and go get some kind of job. Look, I get it. And not like I get it, get off my back about it. I mean, I get it. Like, literally, I get it. As in, I kind of agree. And I want to take the kind of away and be just authentic. I'm looking at God right now. I'm looking at a photograph. I say it like that. It's like a painting or a drawing, but of Jesus Christ. That's what, when I look up right here, as I've said in past episodes, when I'm sitting in this location, I'm looking at God himself while I'm saying this, rather than the camera lens, because I want this as real as it is. I needed to take that kind of away. I definitely agree that I could be making money as I'm doing what I'm doing for In the Image Clothing Company right now. And it can be kind of like benefiting me, because it can. And it can be kind of supplementing what else is going on, because it can. And also, I've lived in this house rent-free for 3 years. And my grandparents are the ones that have allowed that to happen, meaning they're the ones that own this house. My mother has helped me in so many ways, purchased so many things for me. I mean, I don't purchase things by any means, but, certain things, like some clothing. Red the guitar, my last guitar, Frank the guitar was his name. All my food, which is nuts, And so, I get it, and that's the whole thing about it is, in no way am I trying to take advantage of anybody or, like freeload off people. But in no way is that what I'm doing either, and I don't, yeah. My life just looks so different. I don't sit in chairs. I don't sit down other than making In the Image Clothing Company podcast episodes. I literally don't. I either am sleeping or I'm standing in life. Or like, if I'm at church or institute, I'll sit down so I'm not just like standing in the back, But, meaning I don't like take advantage of this house by like, sitting around, playing on some device, showering 3 times a day. Like, I mean, I literally shower like once every couple weeks as of right now, and yeah, my mom purchases all my food, but I just eat very simple and basic things, and I shop as cheaply as I can, and I'm not justifying, I'm giving some context, because my life's being used as a testimony. Okay. And I want to say it like this, and clarify as well. without me having a say over it. But in a sense, I mean, God will never actually take our own decisions away from us. It's called agency. But really, I mean, kind of. And that's something I have a strong testimony of is God won't let you do what he doesn't want you to if it's your highest priority to follow his will. Yeah, I mean, I get physically, literally stopped. As you heard in this, I was speaking and it wouldn't come out. Literally, actually, the words do not come out, like in a way that I couldn't like try to make you believe. And you don't need to, but it is the case. So it's stuff like that, where, I mean, yeah, my life just looked weird, I don't take advantage of this house, and I don't take advantage of people's money or the opportunities that I'm allowed to have right now that are so unique and such a privilege. But I do take full, like I take advantage of them, as in I use the advantage that I've been given, but it's not like I'm taking advantage of things. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like when you've been given something, you use it, and you be so sure to use all of it and be so grateful for it and use it up in its entirety. And you take advantage of what you've been given because you've been given it, rather than like taking advantage of people, right? There's both ends of saying this same worded phrase. And so that's how my life is in this time, and it's just weird because regardless, like I get it, personally, like I don't feel comfortable about it. Not just because I like don't want to get yelled at by my grandparents because they've told me to get a job and I'm living in their house rent free, and no, it's like I don't feel right about it, but I can't do anything else. I I can make all the money in the world. I don't say this out of any kind of thing other than just, giving context for this. And it's just the case. No doubt I could go be a millionaire, a billionaire, doing whatever I did to make money. And, maybe I'll still end up being like a millionaire, billionaire through In The Image Clothing Company. But the point is, it's not for the money. If I just wanted money, yeah. I'm no pride in this, but I'm just very, very, very smart. I could go make money and like loads of it. But that's just not why I'm here. And when I said earlier, like it's not out of naivety and it's not out of, ignorance of like what it really could or would be like. I mean, if I've told a little bit about my upbringing and if I really got into it, yeah, no, I've had experiences that are way worse than like being homeless, for example, because I was locked in a home that I didn't have a say over leaving, and stuff like that. Yeah, no, it's been insane at certain times, and I'd be way more content just being homeless for the sake of like, if I'm saying it rightfully so, not being here in my grandparents' house in the sense of, taking advantage of it because I'm not paying rent to them and stuff, Yeah, if it came to be, me being homeless, I'd be so much more content with that because, I'm not going to just get some job to make money because I don't need money. I need a roof over my head, and a roof could look like any type of shelter out there, and I don't need money. I need food in my stomach. And I'm literally content with eating out of garbage cans if that's what it came to be. And again, not out of being naive. If you really knew what my like quote unquote diet looks like, just meaning the things that I eat and how I eat, and I mean I live like some kind of scavenging animal right now. I live, well below my means, if that's how you word that. Yeah, so I'm not naive to stuff, and I don't need to prove that by saying that. But if you don't know me, and especially just if you don't know my upbringing, because of the way my life looks now, it doesn't look like I maybe have that much understanding, if you're just looking at my life externally. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. Anyway, I've tried though. I've tried to get a job, and again, I can try as hard as whatever, and I can make all the money in the world. I'm just not a worldly person, dude. I don't care about money. Okay. There's episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Money Hungry and Power and Poverty. There's one titled Why Is Your House So Big? Yeah. Episodes that really talk about money and what it is, so no, I don't care. That doesn't mean that one day maybe I won't have a lot of money, like I was saying earlier, right? But then it's what you do with it, and yeah, no, I don't care about money at all, And so why I'm saying it like that is because I've been trying to get it still, even though I personally don't care about it, but also I know that God's told me, something that I didn't understand for the first like 2.5 years of not having this, since not having a job since I quit my last one. But then I found it in the Image Clothing Company, and now it's like, okay, I get it, because it's not some hopeful thing. It's just this literally is my lifelong endeavor. It's what God has for me to do. And again, I'm just picturing those people seeing this around the time that I'm filming this today, as of today's date, right? And they're like, dude, I don't know, man. And that's, again, exactly why, is to have it be used as a testimony. And that's what I'm saying, exactly why I haven't had a job in the past 3 years, is so that I can document this, right? Golly. The reason I'm having that reaction is because to me, it's like, man, really? Like, again, it's like you're sounding like you're just trying to preach to us, like you're a prophet. I get how I sound, but that's why I say don't believe me. I say it so clear, and I have so many times. No, you don't got to care at all what I say, but if it lines up, it lines up. And so in this time, I'm not supposed to be having a job, even though I've still been trying to. And so that's where the title comes in to that, right? Is I already told you. God says to me in moments like tonight at Institute, when I got so convicted, like, nah, you gotta go make this podcast episode. It's like, all right, yeah, okay. So anyway, there's some context, there's some stuff to now be able to have an understanding of, I guess. Yeah. And it's weird because we can have an understanding of things that we don't fully understand, okay? And that's kind of how this is for me. And then if anybody else around me hears this, like, that's the thing, because that's what I'm saying, is I'm not trying to tell this to my grandparents, right? Out of like some kind of thing like, well, you guys can kick me out. I'm some dude who's got some big assignment. You have to give me a free place to live. No, they can kick me out whenever. They could have kicked me out the first month I got here because I didn't really like fully ask them for permission to come live here. My mom was already living here, and I, they had no problem with it. But no, they can choose to just fully give me the boot, right? At any time ever. Totally, it's their house. And that's what I mean is that's why it's kind of weird for me to say stuff like that, because it's not a justification. It doesn't need to change anything. It doesn't need to even sound any certain way. Nobody needs to care. And I'm not trying to make anybody care. I don't even need to care. But it's just, it is what it is. And what it is episode 125 of, maybe an immense amount of to come in the Image Clothing Company podcast episodes, right? Who knows how many podcast episodes we end up having, and that's just a fourth of our company. So this is what I mean, it's just, I'm not deciding any of this. And in a way that if you don't get, I don't care. But things take time, and a lot of this is a testimony of that in itself, is that things take time. And you can go get money very quick. I could go become a billionaire in like a month. I don't know exactly how to as of right now, but it can happen for just about any human on the earth, because money's just money. And a job is pointless. Okay? We're human beings that require very simplistic things. We need food, shelter, love, water, really hydration, right? Okay, we talk about that under especially the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. What it really means to be hydrated is a video, actually, of ours that we have as of today's date already. But yeah, clothing, you know, and warmth if it's cold, or somewhere to get out of the blistering sun if it's excessively hot, right? We have very simple things that we need, and